Welcome back to part 6 of an author reading of Family Bank Blueprint by yours truly, Stephanie Lennon. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Where we left off, we had just spoken about educational incentives, where you could allow your kids to earn a little extra money in exchange for reading. Let's now talk about how they like to spend. Personal electronics. We'll start with Gizmos. After learning that they had the freedom to use their spending accounts, the middle one immediately asked how much a phone costs. I told him it could be as low as $300, but that the service fee is about $25 per month. Furthermore, we parents were not yet ready for the children to have phones given their ages. He then switched his eyes toward an iPad, believing that once he owned any of these magnificent personal electronics that he would have free reign over them. We corrected that belief immediately, making it clear that even if he bought them and paid for the ongoing service, he still was under the same restrictions for overall screen time and content as with family-provided options. It took a bit of wind out of his sails. In lieu of phones, the girls decided they wanted Gizmo watches. A Gizmo is a GPS-enabled kid smartwatch that can call 3 pre-programmed phone numbers while offering some other fun bells and whistles. Think of it as a super, super light Apple iPhone. Super light. At the time, at full price, Gizmos cost about $180 from Verizon plus a $5 per month service plan. They're made for younger kids to whom you're not yet willing to entrust a phone but want to keep tabs on. The GPS lets the parents know where their kid's watch is at any given point in time, enabling two-way communication. It lets you send your kid off on their own without wondering whether or not they made it to their destination safely. Meanwhile, the kids feel sophisticated. The children saw friends with them and wanted one too. One concern is that if we paid for them, they would not appreciate the Gizmo's value and care for it appropriately. As this would be the gateway electronic to pricier personal electronics, we wanted to ensure that we set the stage properly up front. We agreed with the children that they could buy the Gizmo and we would cover the monthly service charge. We controlled which 3 phone numbers were programmed in. The oldest set her sights on getting one. She packed her lunch religiously, making the exception to buy on French Toast Day, which was her favorite. After months of hoarding her allowance, pet sitting, and protecting her spending account, she had enough money. She waited a few weeks before purchasing to avoid fully draining her account. Late July arrived and she was ready to buy. We hit a sale where for the 2-year commitment she could get $50 off the cost of the Gizmo. Since I didn't see us leaving Verizon Wireless due to reception in our neighborhood, I agreed. $50 makes a huge difference to a kid, and baby girl was ecstatic. We expected that once the oldest one had her device, the middle child would save up for his. Interestingly, it wasn't him, but the littlest one who wanted the next Gizmo. She had the advantage of summertime where there were no lunch purchases to deplete her account. Once she had accumulated enough cash, she chose a pink Gizmo, also at the discounted rate. She bought her device in September in time for back to school. We one regularly called and texted her 3 people and most reliably put it on in the morning. Of the 2, the youngest most enthusiastically used her watch until she eventually was given access to a family-provided phone. Nintendo Switch. The kids love video games. Surprising, right? The middle child had his eye on a Nintendo Switch for a long time. Target had a demo console available to play, and he got sidetracked when we passed the electronics department. I don't love video games, not gonna lie, but the bigger idea was to help little man learn how to save up for something meaningful to him. His initial instinct was to put every $15 he had into new sets of Pokémon cards. While we tried not to stand in his way from blowing his allowance on them, we definitely screamed loud objections inside our head with every booster pack he bought. Getting him onto the idea of saving up for a Switch helped shift his attention. Initially, he thought Switches cost $60, and he was excited when he had enough saved. Imagine his devastation when he learned that they actually cost $300, and it's the games. $60 is the price of the games after the console had been bought. Those numbers felt unattainable. Still, he continued saving his lunch money. It was easier in the summer without the lunch line temptations compounded with birthday money he received. He talked about the Switch, he dreamed about the Switch, he watched videos about the Switch. He was obsessed. He realized there may be an alternate path. He noticed that his sisters also had money and that they also liked to play video games. We had been talking about school supplies when the kids shared their plan. Mom, you're going to have to use some of your money to buy a new ruler that could have gone to a Nintendo Switch. Bummer. Baby girl, he already has enough money to buy a Nintendo Switch because we're splitting the money so it can be both of ours. I'm paying $150 and he's paying $150. Mary Poppins, she was our favorite babysitter for a very long time. It costs $300? You guys want a toy so bad that you're spending $300? Little man, It's a video game. Baby girl, it's a fun game. Little man, but we need to save money to get the games too. Mary Poppins, and how much do they cost? Little man, about $5 each. Mary Poppins, are you sure? I think they're probably more. Mom, do you remember when you went to GameStop and you bought used games? Little man, mm-hmm. Mom, did they work as well as the new game? Little man, yep. Mom, did you care if they were used? Little man, I didn't care. Mom, exactly. Was that a good idea to buy a used video game instead of a new game? Little man, mm-hmm. Mom, did it work the same? Little man, uh-huh. Mom, did it save you a lot of money? Little man, uh-huh. Mom, you can use the money for other things now? Little man, uh-huh. I might have been leading the witness. With a stroke of genius, Little Man negotiated with his big sister to go halvesies on the console and on one game. Switches have 2 controllers, and she agreed. Why this is huge. First of all, siblings collaborating toward a common goal. I will highlight, I had nothing to do with this idea or the negotiation. They came up with it on their own, which, chef's kiss. Number 2, independent negotiation skills. Practicing and learning how to work together toward what they both want and to find that happy solution. And thirdly, problem solving. Little man wanted a game. He wanted a console. He couldn't afford it. He found a way to afford it. So at the end, baby girl didn't have quite enough to make up her half, but they didn't want to wait an extra week. Per policy, the First London Bank didn't make loans at that time, but there was no reason that the children couldn't negotiate amongst themselves. Little man agreed that baby girl could borrow the difference, interest-free. That was his decision. She repaid him a week later from her allowance, going without purchased school lunches to be able to make up the difference. Nowhere in this discussion did parents get involved, and we were all very satisfied with the outcome. They still need to stay within their screen time limits, but the children have added to their fleet of electronic devices through their own actions. They have skin in the game of keeping devices in working condition and the pride of having saved for and met a goal. The children would go on to buy laptops for themselves to play Minecraft and Roblox. The girls bought new, lower-end ones from Amazon, and little man bought one of husband's used higher-end computers at half price. Overall screen time limits still apply, regardless of how many electronics the children accumulate. As they grew, the kids noticed that they could earn in-game credits, but they could also buy advantages in their online games for real money. This, of course, was the faster route to the avatars, costumes, and other in-game purchases. We had to set spending limits to prevent them from going crazy with online gaming purchases. We initially agreed upon a $5 per month limit. They could buy on a monthly basis or save up for a few months to get better bulk pricing. They also started asking for gaming gift cards for birthdays and holidays, seeing that as a shortcut for faster online purchasing power. As each kid grows, their interest in spending guardrails have and will continue to evolve over time. Side note, they've certainly gone up from $5 a month as they are older and they're doing more in-game purchases. The second thing we've allowed is the more money that they earn through other avenues, the more that we let them put into the in-game purchases, which is a motivation for them to go out and find other ways to earn money. Rethinking purchases. At 8 years old, little man had a new favorite book series, The Last Kid on Earth by Max Brallier. What's not to love about the last 4 kids on Earth fighting zombies and a large, intelligent monster named Blarg? Encouraging the love of reading, I bought him the first book in the series. I had it autographed and delivered to his classroom for the author's visit at school. I figured we could borrow the rest of the series from the library. 2 weeks later, while waiting for our table at a restaurant, we stopped into Books A Million across the street. The library was closed, and I wanted a vintage Encyclopedia Brown paper book to read together before bed. Little man spotted a Max Brallier display of hardbacks, and he had to get the latest edition. I asked if he really wanted to pay full price for a hardback and if we should go to the library instead. He insisted on spending his money on it. I said, okay. And we bought both a copy of the last kid's book as well as the Encyclopedia Brown paperback I wanted. Our table pager buzzed and we went to dinner. While waiting for a meal, I glanced at the receipt and noticed that we'd been overcharged by $1. I pointed it out to my son and we decided to go back to get our dollar back. Quick lesson there was to pay attention when ringing up the order, but also not to be afraid to make it right. After settling the dinner check, we walked back across the street and showed the cashier the error. She confirmed that we were overcharged and issued the refund. After we resolved the Encyclopedia Brown issue, little man decided he wanted to return his hardback. Surprised, I asked if he was sure. He confirmed and said he would get it at the library later. Once more, I said, okay. The cashier gracefully refunded that charge too. Heading back to the car, I gently pushed him on his thought process. Mom, why did you decide you didn't want your book? Little man, so we can buy the EV game. Mom, you don't have a lot of money left? Little man, But that'll give me less money. Mom, oh, do you know where the rest of your money has been going? Little man, lunch. Mom, know how much you spent this year? Little man, no. Mom, it's about $50. What could you do with $50 if you hadn't bought so many lunches? Little man, Pokemon. Mom, yeah, you could be buying lots of other stuff if you hadn't bought lunch, right? Was it worth it? Little man, no. Mom, no. Will you do anything differently? Little man, buy less lunch. And again, as a reminder to a previous reading, for lunches, the kids can make their lunch for free, or they can buy out of their allowance. And that was part of how we set the allowance amount in the first place, was to allow them to buy lunches with it or to repurpose that money for something else. So we're not super mean in that you have to pay for your own lunches with your own money, but that is part of why we gave them the amount of money we did, so that they could either use lunch money for lunches or use it for something else. That was part of the exercise. All right, so I asked little man what he's going to save up for after he buys his Eevee game, which is for the Nintendo Switch, and whether or not he would start buying lunches again. He said he wanted to save up for something else, but he wasn't sure what. He was starting to connect the dots. In a different example, it only took a few months until baby girl became disappointed in her Gizmo's limited functionality. It didn't do nearly as much as she wanted it to do. She regularly forgot to charge or wear it. It was too late to return it to the store. She tried to resell her Gizmo to her siblings, but her younger sister had already bought one. Her brother was somewhat interested, but she wouldn't come down from asking for the full purchase price. She learned that used items are not nearly as valuable as new, and depreciation is real. So with that, I'm going to pause. If you're finding this content at all valuable, please consider a like and or a follow. I'm a YouTuber, and every bit of support is very gratefully appreciated, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much. With that, I'm also going to wrap up this portion, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.